Righty, welcome back to another live stream. I guess another episode here, not of question period, but more of some breaking news. You have Justin Trudeau's MPs, 4 of them are saying we're done, tout fini, as Trudeau would like to say. They are abandoning ship, and you are seeing more and more occurrences of this. This is a lot of MPs now that have either crossed the floor to independent, or in this case have said we're just not running in re-election. We are done with you. And this is all coming in one massive concession of you have 20 to 30 Liberal MPs that are choosing right now to remain anonymous, but they will be coming out as early as next Wednesday on the fact that they don't have any more confidence in Justin Trudeau. But specifically, we're looking at Trudeau in this video, in this live stream here. He's done. He's toast. Like, everyone is calling for the end of him, right? People are leaving his cabinet. It's not good. So I don't want to celebrate too early. But nonetheless, it seems like he's done. He's not going anywhere. So welcome back to the stream. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you all to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does really help grow the channel and help push the stream out. We're going to be doing just a slight recap on this topic, on the breaking news of Liberal MPs, 4 of them that are saying we're no longer running in re-election. We're going to take a look at a press conference that Jagmeet Singh did earlier this morning, and then we're going to take a look at a committee meeting hearing where Brock and other Conservatives just stuck it to the Liberals. So this is going to be decent. It's going to be pretty good. Get a coffee, get yourself a beer, get yourself situated, because this is going to be worth sticking around for the full thing, or as much as you possibly can. I'm seeing in the live chat, someone said, I was just watching one video about the same subject, and now you have a live about it. Yep, that's right. I don't normally stream, for those that are like, hey, whoa, what's going on here? I don't normally stream on this channel unless it's like question period related, or I guess in yesterday's instance, the Trudeau's testimony where he testified. But this is just too important to not stream, right? So for those that, because there are, believe it or not, Ripley's, there are some people that watch, House of Canada that don't watch Mr. Sunshine and vice versa. So 2 separate channels for kind of the same topic, but 2 different topics at the same time. All right, so let's get into it here. We're going to start with X. So I posted on X earlier this morning, breaking: 4 Liberal MPs jump ship from the Trudeau regime. He's done. He's lost confidence within his own party. And this is, just so factually correct. And of course, I don't have a very big X account. If you do have X, I recommend you guys click one of the links in the description of the live stream and go follow me there, because I am very quick to post on there, because it takes a little bit more time to make a video, right? But I was still pretty quick with making a video on MSB. And then you've got the breaking news story here. So let's take a look at this video, and then we're going to get into, after this, we're going to get into what Jagmeet has to say.
Well, 4 Liberal cabinet ministers have decided not to seek re-election. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is expected to shuffle his cabinet yet again as a result. Philomena Tassi has announced she won't be running for personal reasons, and a senior government source says Marie-Claude Bibeau, Carla Qualtrough, and Dan Vandal also won't be on the ballot. A shuffle could happen as early as next week. Well, let's go live now to CTV's Rachel Aiello with more on what's taking place. And this is just, add this to the list of other major issues that is impacting the Prime Minister and his office.
Yeah, that's right. So we have confirmed today that these 4 cabinet ministers will not be running again. And as you noted, this sets the stage for another cabinet shuffle. Now, the timing of this is still in flux, but because there are 4 members of his cabinet no longer running again, they will not be keeping their ministerial positions. Obviously, the Prime Minister wants to get folks into those roles, those high-profile positions, who do intend to run under his banner again. We've heard already from Minister Tassi. She issued a statement this morning saying that this was a bittersweet but personal decision, and we are expecting to get statements from the other cabinet ministers soon.
Are we expecting any statement from the Prime Minister today on this, or anything from his office?
we have reached out to the Prime Minister's office for comment, both to get his reaction to these high-profile departures, but also to see if they will say anything about what comes next. Obviously, this comes amid continuing pressure on the Prime Minister from within his caucus. CTV News has reported that as of next week's Liberal caucus meeting, there are a few members of his team that will be going to him directly and asking for him to consider stepping aside. So the timing of a minister leaving is never good, but certainly this announcement from 4 cabinet ministers today that they will not be running again days before that high-stakes Liberal caucus meeting is certainly of note, and I'm sure that the Prime Minister is feeling the pressure of this massive political update.
And do we have any indications? I know that a lot of the MPs that have signed on to this letter, a lot of them are trying to keep...
This is a massive week, folks. It started off with Thanksgiving really taking a bit of a tricky turn, right? You had the emergency broadcast by Justin Trudeau saying, hey, you know, we're banning India. We're kicking out the diplomats. That's it. India's done. You know, like they're corrupt. There's a lot of foreign interference, and we have undeniable proof now. And that was crazy. Like that, doing that on Thanksgiving. I'm not saying that was inherently an act of terror, but I've heard it. I've heard somebody say that's almost like an act of terror for Justin Trudeau to spook Canadians on Thanksgiving, a national holiday. And so nonetheless, man, that's crazy. So then you had the testimony, and after both of these acts that happened, on Monday and then on Wednesday, now you have the news of 4 more cabinet ministers within the Liberal MPs that are saying they're not running for re-election. And that's just 4 more. There's other ones that have said that they are not running for re-election. They're stepping down. Then you have other ones that have crossed the floor to independent. They want nothing to do with Trudeau. It's crazy. It's not a good look for Trudeau, man.
Their name's out of the news, but are we hearing of any potential MPs who are willing to come forward and say, yeah, I'm a part of this group of people?
So CTV News has been working the phones, talking to a good number of Liberal caucus members. What we've kind of heard so far is there are internal pressures from some to want to keep this effort to press the Prime Minister to not run again kind of out of the headlines. They want this to be a private, behind closed doors, candid conversation. Now, there have been a few Liberal MPs who have come out publicly to his defense, including Liberal MP Chandra Arya, saying that he thinks his caucus mates are focused too much on the polls, and he is optimistic that an economic turnaround will help the Prime Minister at least have some room to start talking to Canadians about what's next. So there are a number of ongoing conversations and some tensions. There have been a few Liberal MPs who have spoken publicly expressing their frustrations with the Prime Minister. So it is definitely a hot button issue, and next Wednesday's caucus meeting is going to be one to watch for sure.
CTV's Rachel Ayala.
Man, this is one hell of a time to be alive, to witness what the hell's going on with Canadian politics. But specifically, this week is going to be wild. Like, as we approach, we're past the halfway point in the week. And then next week is going to be insane, which for those who are watching, or the almost 1,000 people that are watching right now, just check to see if you're subscribed, and check to make sure that you have a little bell notification on so you can be notified of these live streams, because we don't know if there's going to be more emergency announcements like this next week, and then also like question period and stuff like that. It's going to be wild. But let's take a look at what Jagmeet said in his press conference earlier this morning, because he's been really scrutinizing Pierre Poilievre on the fact that he doesn't have his security clearance. But I don't know. I think that the previous leader of the NDP, Tom Mulcair, has said, the previous Jagmeet, right, has said that he doesn't think that Pierre should get that security clearance. But now Jagmeet today is saying that he should get a security clearance. It's so contradicting. Kind of weird. But let's take a look.
It is now my great pleasure to introduce the leader of Canada's NDP, Jagmeet Singh.
Boo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Norm, and thank you to Mark, who's going to be speaking a bit later, and of course to Claire, our candidate from Danforth, for being here, and for the workers that are here. I believe, all of us here believe, that everyone in our country should feel safe. You should be safe in your communities, safe going to work, safe when you come back home, safe when you go to the park. Safe. You should be safe. You have the right to be safe. sadly, that is not what it feels like right now. We're seeing a really serious increase in gun violence, particularly. We heard this week of really troubling allegations by the RCMP that a foreign government is actually hiring organized criminals, gangs, to engage in gun violence in our communities. And when we think about what gun violence means to people, I think about the people that are impacted. Of course, we know the lives that are cut short, all the potential of that person that was killed.
See, this doesn't make any sense. Jagmeet is for, the gun buyback program. So what do you mean stop gun violence, Jagmeet? What do you mean? It's not the criminals, right? You're saying it's the law-abiding gun owners. Like, he's so hypocritical. For crying out loud, man. Make up your mind.
Would have contributed back to their communities, the things that they could have achieved in their lives. The families left behind mourning them, mourning their loss. The loved ones that are left with the trauma of seeing someone that they care deeply about killed in that way. So there is deep impacts of gun violence. And we know that the majority of guns that are involved in these serious crimes, the vast majority of those guns, when they're seized by the police, turns out 85% of them are smuggled across the border. Now,
so that directly contradicts everything that he is fighting for. Him and Trudeau are going after law-abiding gun owners, yet here he is just admitting that 85% of the crime is from illegal smuggling. Like, what a freaking moron! Are you kidding me? That should be enough right there for the government to stop going after law-abiding gun owners. That right there, that's enough proof. He just admitted it. For crying out loud, man.
Our CIU workers. These are workers that can protect our country. These are workers, these are border officers that can keep us safe. But they have been so under-resourced, understaffed, that they're unable to do the work that they want to do, that they know how to do. They're just simply overworked and understaffed, do not have the capacity to do what's necessary. When we look at the sheer volume of risks that our country faces, we don't have enough workers to meet that need. And we know a large reason why we're in this position is because when the Conservatives were in power, they massively cut the Canadian Border Security Agency with massive cuts. In one day alone, the cuts that the Conservatives brought in resulted in 1,100 officers being fired. 1,100 officers were cut directly as a result of Conservatives. Now, Pierre Poilievre talks a lot about crime, but his government, when he was in power, cut the very officers that we need to keep our country safe. And he would do more of the same. He's talked about cutting the services that we need. That's not going to get us.
No, it's about being more efficient.
We know that Justin Trudeau had the opportunity to reverse those cuts and hasn't done so. So today, our announcement as leader of this party, the New Democratic Party, is committed to immediately, as Prime Minister, I would restore immediately those 1,100 workers and work to increasing our capacity so that we can have the resources necessary and the equipment necessary, and most importantly, the staff necessary to protect us, whether it's over rail or other ports of entry, make sure that we are protecting our country from illegal guns being brought into the country. We can keep our country safe. We can protect our communities, but it requires having the people that are the ones that can do this work, having them staffed up sufficiently so they can provide the services that they know how to do and they can do, but just have to be.
And the only one to do it is Jagmeet.
So we want to keep our community safe. People deserve to be safe, and we're going to fight to make sure that's a reality. I also just want to acknowledge that while we're focused on gun smuggling and gun crime, we know that the roots of violence are very complex, and that involves addressing other concerns as well, which include addressing poverty, addressing lack of opportunities, and we'll continue to work on those solutions as well. I'll do that again in French, and then I'm going to ask the president of the CIU to share some thoughts, and then I'll take your questions. Donc, d'abord,
I'm guessing most people don't want to hear French. Let's skip forward.
C'est exactement ce qu'on va.
That's all we're set up to graduate. 600 doesn't even cover attrition. So
The room, and then
it is very heartening.
There you go.
Thank you.
Jagmeet takes questions.
Appreciate that.
Thanks again to Mark, and thanks again to the workers that are here from the CIU. Appreciate the work that you do and appreciate your presence here today. With that, I'm ready for any questions you might have.
going to take questions in the room, and then I'm going to go to Zoom. Sorry.
Hi, I'm from CP Canadian Press. My first question for you is that in your security briefings about foreign interference, were you ever given any name of NDP current or former MPs or candidates who, as the Prime Minister phrased it yesterday, were engaged in or were at risk of foreign interference?
After reviewing the top secret information that I received after receiving my top secret clearance, there was no information that I received that required me to take any additional steps as it pertains to the New Democratic Party. There were concerns that were raised that I felt required other party leaders to take action. But after reading that report, receiving the information that I received, there's no additional steps that I needed to take as leader of the New Democratic Party.
And the follow-up questions about the tension between India and Canada. Some people in the Indian diaspora community are expressing concerns that India could stop processing their visa again. So my question is that, do you share that concern? And what is your message to the travelers who are feeling worried about what's coming?
Thank you for the question. I am concerned about the impacts on everyday folks that have links and connections to India. I want to create a distinction. As a nation, as Canadians, we want to have relationships with people around the world. And there are many people that have come to Canada from India that are incredible contributing members of our communities, that are our friends, our neighbors, that are community members. And we value them and we value their relationships. And we recognize their need to be able to go back and visit their family and go back to India. We have relationships with businesses that we've got excellent relationships with. Our focus as a nation should be on making a distinction between the people, between businesses, and right now the government. The government of India, and specifically the Modi government, the current prime minister and the current government, have engaged in allegations which are deeply concerning. So we need accountability, we need full transparency, and we need a unified front. As all elected officials, all party leaders should stand united, a Team Canada approach on the same side to denounce clearly these very serious allegations of completely inappropriate behavior, frankly, illegal.
Yeah, he is banned from India. That's pretty funny.
Behavior by the Indian government, by the Modi government. We need to stand united in denouncing that and really targeting our approach towards the diplomats and the Indian government and demanding justice and accountability there, while maintaining a relationship with, of course, the people and the businesses that we have relationships with.
Any questions in the room?
Hi, Rob City News. Just to follow up on the foreign interference report question. Yeah, you have security clearance as well. Do you know those names?
I am aware of information that was shared in the reports, and I've said that given the report that I read, given the information that I was able to...
What a jackass. I'm sorry, but what a jackass. Are you aware of the names? Right? Do you know the names? I'm aware that there was a report and that there were letters that were put together that could or that may or may not have made up the structure of a name, a place, an origin. Like, what the hell kind of answer is that? Oh my God, this guy is mental. He's off his rocker. Like, that, I gotta go back. I gotta listen to this. I'm not angry enough. I want to get angrier. Like, that was such a simple question.
Accountability there, while maintaining a relationship with, of course, the people and the businesses that we have relationships with.
Any questions in the room?
Hi, Rob City News. Just to follow up on the foreign interference report question. Yeah, you have security clearance as well. Do you know those names?
I am aware of information that was shared in the reports, and I've said that given the report that I read, given the information that I was able to read, I have called for a release of the names. And
do you have the names? Do you know the names? I was informed that there was a briefing, and that Trudeau is very angry. I saw that he testified, right? I saw that he testified. Like, come on, bro. Do you know the names or do you not know the names? Answer the goddamn question. Like, these people are losing They're losing so much respect from the general public. They think that this is what the people want. This is not what the people want. People want straight answers. People want as crisp and clear of an answer as you can possibly give. They don't want this political nonsense. The days for this are over, man. Maybe this used to be a thing, but it's not a thing anymore. People don't want this.
In a manner that respects national security and respects our workers, the folks that are involved in national security. The concern being that if it's not released in an appropriate manner, it could jeopardize either the methodology, how we've obtained that information, or the people that obtained that information. So protecting them should be the top priority, but people do need transparency, and we need to see the names released.
So you're looking for all names released?
I want to see as much transparency as possible while recognizing national security interests. I think they can be balanced, and that people ought to know who is in.
See, he doesn't even know the names. I'm calling on the names being released unless it breaches national security. He doesn't even know the names. He doesn't even know the names, and he's looked at the report. So what names are there, right? That's so incriminating. Like, this is just such freaking nonsense. He doesn't even know the names. He's seen the freaking report with his security clearance, and he's like, Pierre's got to see it too, so he can also not know the names like me.
Involved. And there should be a way to do that while protecting the matters that I outlined.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Guys, just quickly, the pledge to increase the number of the staffing
Yes.
that you're talking about today, is there a dollar figure on how much that would cost? Obviously, it involves substantially expanding the training facility. If only 600 of these officers can be trained a year.
Yeah. I would start by saying that the cost of not doing anything is we're losing lives. We're losing, people are being killed with gun violence. And as I cited, 85% of the guns seized are guns that have been illegally smuggled. So it is clear that it's having a direct impact on our lives. And
So you mean it's not law-abiding gun owners?
Not just the people whose lives are cut short and they aren't able to live their full lives and their full potential. The family members that continue to live with the trauma and the pain of their loss. Communities that are reeling with the feeling of not being safe. So there's an immense cost to not taking action. The cuts that the Conservatives brought in were in the range of $150 million to the CBSA. And so we need to reverse those cuts. Justin Trudeau had an opportunity over the past 9 years to do so, has not actually reversed that cut, has maintained the same cut, and it's let people down. And so we are committing to reversing that cut. We know that would include other measures like increasing the capacity to train. I think we'd also need to look at rehiring workers that have left the workforce. We also, as was mentioned by President Mark Weber, we have to look at some of the ways to encourage recruitment and retention, and that includes looking at improvements to the benefits package. One of the things that workers have called for is similar to other law enforcement is at 25 and out. That's something that we would also support. So we need to look at respect. We need to look at recruitment. We need to look at retention as the tools to get back to a position where we can keep our country safe. As was outlined, this is about safety, and people in our country deserve to feel safe, deserve to be safe. And one of the ways we can do that is by stopping the smuggling of illegal arms into our country, which is a serious problem. And we're not able to do that, as was outlined by President Weber, without having the sufficient workforce in place. We can't do the work necessary to keep people safe.
And just to clarify on the names, no names of NDP parliamentarians, or there were none that you were concerned about?
I've said this, and I hope I can. This is to be careful about revealing any inappropriate information. There was no information that I received, having read the document and received the top secret clearance. There's no information that I received regarding current or past candidates that required me to take additional steps when it came to the New Democratic Party. But there were outstanding issues
that required him. Okay, so that required him to take additional steps. That this is where the wording really matters. He's just admitted that there was no one past or present that required him to take additional steps. So someone has to go and triangulate all of the steps that he has currently taken and see if any of these steps would be in response to foreign interference by somebody within the NDP, right?
All leaders should get clearance, and should take the necessary steps to protect the integrity of our democracy and to ensure that there's not this interference. If I can be very specific, I have said, and I pointed out, the only federal leader in our country right now who is not either committed to or obtained security clearance is Pierre Poilievre. It is very disturbing to me, given the ongoing threats, the ongoing and real threats from a foreign government impacting the lives of Canadians right now, in addition to specific allegations that are now public knowledge in the report that was released that specifically named the Conservative Party of Canada and at least two leadership races, the one where the current leader was chosen and the previous one. Given that, I cannot imagine why a leader would not want to receive all information possible to take every step to protect our country. I love our country. I love.
No, you don't. Previous leader, Tom Mulcair of the NDP, almost once Prime Minister of Canada, Tom Mulcair, has said that he agrees with Pierre Poilievre for not getting the security clearance because it'll muzzle him. Look at how much information Jagmeet is really giving. Like, he's not giving us anything. What are the names? Do you know the names? I've been informed that there may or may not be names on a list. Okay. Have you taken any action on your, anyone in your cabinet or any of the names under your leadership? I've been informed that there is a briefing. I have seen the briefing. There are letters that are put together in a form that create words that may or may not be incriminating to some people somewhere once upon a time, hypothetically. It's mental. It's absolutely mental.
Of our democracy, as these workers do. These workers love Canada.
He's not a leader.
I want to do everything.
This guy is not a good leader at all.
I can't imagine why a political leader wouldn't also want to do that as well. So I can't understand why Pierre Poilievre refuses to get information that could protect the lives of Canadians, that could protect the sanctity of our democracy. This is a moment where we have to put our party second and put the country first. It is a country first approach. And the only reason I think Pierre Poilievre is reluctant to take the information or get the information necessary is because he wants to protect his party above the country, and that is absolutely wrong.
So he literally admitted that he hasn't done anything additional, right? There hasn't been a single thing he's done additional to things that he's done prior. So what the hell is he expecting Pierre to do that Pierre hasn't already done, or that the government hasn't already done? Like, he's talking crazy, man. You must pay attention to this, or you must take a look at this briefing, the super secret information. It'll save lives of Canadians. Lives, not just affect outcomes of political differences in here in Canada and elections. It'll save lives. People will die unless you see this briefing. Come on, Pierre. People are going to die. People are going to die unless you see the briefing. That's what they're saying.
And we'll go to Zoom to take questions from journalists from afar.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So just a reminder for journalists on Zoom to please use the raise hand function to ask your question.
I'll pass it back to you, Nima.
Yeah, do you hear me? Do you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Just take a moment. I think there might be folks on Zoom, and Nina, who's working in Ottawa, will take a look at anyone who's raised their
freaking Zoom, man.
For questions.
So I just want to make sure that you hear me. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you there, Nina.
Excellent. Perfect. So just to
don't forget that the NDP are broke. He owes like $21 million to the bank. He owes 21. No wonder they can't. Hello. Can you hear me? Hello. They're broke. Hello. Can you hear me? Hello. It's because they got no money. They don't know what the hell they're doing.
Reminder for folks online to please use the raise hand function to ask your question. Un rappel à tout le monde en ligne d'utiliser la fonction lever la main pour poser votre question. We're going to start with Ashley Burke with the CBC. Please go ahead.
Ashley, you might be on mute.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Singh.
Can't you figure this out before?
You got that classified briefing that there were outstanding issues that you said impacted other parties. Did those outstanding issues impact the Conservative Party and what other parties? And what can you say about the severity.
He can't say
of these
anything.
outstanding
I've seen a briefing. There are letters that create words.
I thought that they were quite severe. I thought the matters were quite serious. I think it's fair just point to what is available in the public document. Part of the reason for my precision of language is that I don't want to
You don't know shit.
inadvertently release anything that is top secret and that could jeopardize national security. I deeply care about protecting both the people that serve as well as the techniques and tools that we use. So that's why I want to be very careful. But from what I read and what is available, I can just focus on what's available in the public discourse. It is clear that there are, in this report, which I might remind folks, it was a report that was written by a committee that included members of parliament from all parties, in addition to senators. This report indicated that there was clear intelligence that impacted the Conservative Party of Canada. That is out there in the public discourse. That alone should raise serious concerns for Canadians, saying that, well,
he's seen a briefing that is life-changing. People will die unless Pierre Poilievre also sees the briefing. And when he quotes anything, he's like, well, as per what everyone can see in the public documents. Like, dude, nobody's asking. We've all heard it. I'm sorry, but nobody gives a shit what's in the public one. We want to know what this life-changing, life-saving information is, right? People are going to die. Pierre needs to see it, or people are going to die. We're not going to tell you who's going to die. We're not going to tell you how they're going to die. Hello, can anyone hear me? Hello, people are going to die. Hello, see the briefing. Hello.
The portion of it that's public has serious allegations impacting the Conservative Party of Canada. And Pierre Poilievre refuses to receive a security clearance to know about what's going on. And please, let's not buy his bogus excuse that this anyway limits what you can say. It limits the protection of our methodology. And
bro, you haven't said a single thing. You haven't said a single thing. You haven't said how people are going to die, who's going to die. You haven't said how this better protects Canadians. You haven't said shit. So what do you mean it doesn't limit what people can say? You haven't said a goddamn thing. What do you mean it hasn't limited what you can say? Who are you trying to fool? You're fooling NDP supporters. That's about it. Freaking brain dead people.
And of the people, which I hope that he would also want to protect, but it doesn't limit me in any way from criticizing the government, from pointing out my disagreement with their conclusions, as I did. The special rapporteur said that there was no need for a public inquiry after receiving the information. I read that information and said, no, I disagree. We absolutely need a public inquiry, and now we do have a public inquiry. So I just want to point out that that excuse does not carry any weight that Pierre Poilievre has used. I have come up with conclusions that are very different from the government and very different from the special rapporteur after reading the information, while still protecting national security and still protecting the people and the ways and the techniques that we use. So I want to be clear. Yes, there are serious allegations that impact the Conservative Party, and we already also know of the impact of the allegations as it touches the Liberal Party of Canada, and that Justin Trudeau knew about these allegations and did not take steps. And so both of them have questions to answer.
Okay, so the outstanding issues that you said impacted other parties, what I'm hearing from you is the Conservative and the Liberal Party is what you're talking about. And then for my follow, just let me know if that's not accurate. And then for the follow, you said that you want the names of parliamentarians that the Prime Minister has said engaged or were victims of foreign interference to be released publicly, which is something that the Conservative leader is also calling for. Can you just clarify, is that what you're asking for, to waive the security clearance on this and just make these names public?
Well, I've taken a different approach. I think that there is a very serious national security concern, which I respect, both of people that are involved, that work for Canada, that do important work that we don't want.
That was a phenomenal question. Like, I can't believe that an actual mainstream media reporter just asked that. Should we waive the security clearance and publicize the names of the 11 MPs? Or however many MPs may or may not be in there in an accumulation of letters that were put together as not only, in a concession that create words, but specifically names. Should we publicize this concession of letters that puzzle together to names of people that exist that are members of sworn parliament? See how fucking confusing all that is? Just speak regular English for folks that are not Shakespearean or people that just want to know what the hell you're actually saying, because at some point through all that soliloquy bullshit you lose track of whatever you're trying to say, right? These people are not geniuses. These people are morons. Yes, you should absolutely declassify everything and release the names of the people that are in question. Yes.
Disclosed, or their identities to be disclosed. Also our methodologies. I believe there must be a way for us to be able to release that information while protecting those items. And so I have said, yes, we should be able to release the names while respecting and protecting that information. Absent that, and in the meantime, Pierre Poilievre has to get security clearance and know what's going on that's directly impacting his party. I mean, it is ludicrous to me that someone who claims to want to be the prime minister of this country doesn't want to know of ongoing and serious threats that impact Canadians, that impact us. And I think it disqualifies him as a candidate for prime minister.
Wow, disqualifies him, eh?
I think it's clear to me that both of these leaders have at many times chosen to put their party before the country. The reluctance of Justin Trudeau to take adequate steps early on when it came to someone like Han Dong, the fact that he refused to act on information that was provided to him shows me that he also chose to put his party first. I believe when it comes to the security of our country, there is only one position that's appropriate. That is putting country first, that is putting the people of Canada first, and party second. Pierre Poilievre has clearly shown that he's not doing that.
Nous allons maintenant à Christian Noël avec Radio-Canada. C'est à vous.
Nah, c'est tout fini. We're not watching the French stuff. This is pretty good, folks. This is pretty good. I'm going to skip through the French.
Avec un gouvernement
La décision
de faire
dépasse.
et
Sont dans ce... It doesn't sound like something... C'est vraiment inquiétant.
We will now go to David Baxter with the Canadian Press. Please go ahead.
Hey there, Mr. Singh. I know you've been calling for Pierre Poilievre to get the top secret clearance. In his statement yesterday, he was saying that his chief of staff does receive classified briefings, and neither he nor anyone from intelligence agencies have raised these concerns directly with him. Just what do you make of that reasoning from the Conservative leader?
I think it sounds like a cop-out. Does that sound like a leader that's taking this seriously? It doesn't sound like someone who cares. You've got these serious allegations that a foreign government literally hired gangs in Canada to go out and shoot up people's homes and people's businesses. Canadians' lives are put at risk. Does that sound like the response of a leader who's taking it seriously?
What about the fact that we...
About safety?
See,
someone else.
Why doesn't he acknowledge that guy who got killed was a listed terrorist in India? You know, like what's wrong with mentioning that? It's not offensive. Like that's literally what he was. He was a listed terrorist in India. I'm not saying that is now A-okay for the country of his origin to come and pull off an assassination. Not at all. But the bigger question, well, it's two questions, right? It's not just dealing with, hey, people from a foreign government, from a foreign agency, came in and assassinated somebody in Canada. That's not the only question to be asking. It's also, okay, this was targeted, and why did we let this person in here? Right? Like, shouldn't that be a question that we're asking too? Or am I tripping? Can somebody let me know? Am I tripping here? Am I looking into this a little bit too much? I feel like that's a pretty normal thing that I'm asking.
Else in my team has looked at it, I don't know, something that does not sound like someone who's taking this seriously. This is serious. It's a very serious matter, and it requires a leader who's prepared to get the security clearance, to know what's going on. Why would he want to turn a blind eye? Why would he want to make it clear to a foreign government that he's not taking this seriously? He's the only federal leader that doesn't want to know about allegations of foreign interference that directly impact his party from a government that is directly implicated in serious and heinous crimes against Canadians. And that is the response that he has given does not give a lot of confidence that he is taking this seriously or that he's showing responsibility. If I'm a leader, I want to look at the information myself. I don't want to outsource that to someone else.
Yeah, I see people agreeing with me down in the comments here. But isn't he a listed terrorist because he advocates for a separatist movement as opposed to terrorism charges? Yes, I don't know, man. frankly, it's not really much of my concern. It really isn't. I'm not going to defend the guy. I'm not going to advocate against him or for him. I'm saying India is recognized by Canada as the largest democracy in the world. We have somewhat decent relations with India, or I guess we did. And as per the Indian government, who we have, again, we used to have strong relations with, also recognized as the largest democracy in the world, should we not respect their rulings about people? Like, what about Canadians? What like Saruman, right? Or whatever, Saruman, the freaking, fuck, am I mixing up Lord of the Rings? The terrorist group that burned the flags in Vancouver, the Canadian flags, and called for the death of Canada, right? Like, those people are recognized by, and it took a little bit of time for them to be recognized finally here in Canada as a terrorist entity, but they are recognized by another country that we're allies with, multiple, right? Germany and Israel. And so, like, we need to respect other countries' rulings. And if there are, you know, people that are living in Canada or Canadians that are Saruman, Samadin? Oh, Samadin, shit, my bad. Is Saruman from Lord of the Rings? Samadun. Yeah, there you go. My bad. Yeah, whatever. Oh man, that's freaking funny. Solomon. That's right. Solomon, the Solomon terrorist group. Oh my God, man. My bad, folks. My bad. I'm not perfect. But you know what I'm saying? Like, if Canada recognizes somebody as a terrorist and then they go live in another country, should they be able to live there, like, freely, another country, an allied country? No, I'm not talking Russia. We have sanctions against Russia, but I mean, you know, like, I don't know. It's an interesting question nonetheless, but this is something that the Canadian government was aware of. They are aware that he was listed as a terrorist in India, and we did nothing about it. And then they are aware that India was working on, you know, infiltrating Canada to assassinate him, and they are aware of all that leading up to the actual assassination. We saw it all happen. Like, not we, but the government saw it all happen, our government agencies, and they didn't do anything about it. So I don't know, man. It's kind of crazy.
When else, if it's something impacting my party and I'm the leader of my party, I want to make sure I want to know what's going on. I want to know exactly what's going on. I want to know the details of it. I want to see it personally because I'm the leader of the party. That does not sound like somebody who's taking responsibility. That's like, that cares about our security in our country.
Yeah, my bad, folks. My bad.
David, you just need to unmute to ask your follow-up.
Oh, apologies. Thanks, Nina. And just, you know, the Prime Minister also making reference to the situation in Don Valley North regarding issues involving the Liberal Party and foreign interference. In your view, being able to look at the NSICOP report, was that the lone instance of potential foreign interference highlighted with the Liberals, or did you see issues that raise your concern beyond the Don Valley North situation?
Okay. I haven't seen this. I haven't seen it, but I'm assuming he's going to say, look, based off of the public available report, there are words that make a concession of order that would make it so that, you know, the leader of the opposition or any party in Canada should absolutely look at, have the security clearance so they can be aware of what's going on. I think that's what he's going to say. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think he's going to say. Here we go.
Information that was provided to him shows me that he also chose to put his party first. I believe when it comes to the security of our country, there is only one position that's appropriate. That is putting country first, that is putting the people of Canada first, and party second. Pierre Poilievre has clearly shown that he's not doing that.
Nous allons maintenant à Christian Noël avec Radio-Canada. C'est à vous.
There you go.
Bonjour, Monsieur Singh, Christian Noël de Radio-Canada. Ma première question concerne bien avec moi.
Notre priorité à ce moment, pour encore décider les Canadiens nécessaires contre les Canadiens, contre les entreprises canadiennes. Pourquoi et
des portes
d'information par cette
Hey there, Mr. Singh. I know you've been calling for Pierre Poilievre to get the top secret clearance. In his statement yesterday, he was saying that, you know, his chief of staff does receive classified briefings, and neither he nor anyone from intelligence agencies have raised these concerns directly with him. Just what do you make of that reasoning from the Conservative leader?
I think it sounds like a cop-out. Does that sound like a leader that's taking this seriously? It doesn't sound like someone who cares. You've got these serious allegations that a foreign government literally hired gangs in Canada to go out and shoot up people's homes and people's businesses. Canadians' lives are put at risk. Does that sound like the response of a leader who's taking it seriously, who actually is concerned about safety? Saying, oh, someone else in my team has looked at it, I don't know, something. That does not sound like someone who's taking this seriously. This is serious. It's a very serious matter. And it requires a leader who's prepared to get the security clearance, to know what's going on. Why would he want to turn a blind eye? Why would he want to make it clear to a foreign government that he's not taking this seriously? He's the only federal leader that doesn't want to know about allegations of foreign interference that directly impact his party from a government that is directly implicated in serious and heinous crimes against Canadians. And that is the response that he has given does not give a lot of confidence that he is taking this seriously or that he's showing responsibility. If I'm a leader, I want to look at the information myself. I don't want to outsource that to someone else. If it's something impacting my party and I'm the leader of my party, I want to make sure I want to know what's going on. I want to know exactly what's going on. I want to know the details of it. I want to see it personally because I'm the leader of the party. That does not sound like someone who's taking responsibility, that cares about our security in our country.
David, you just need to unmute to ask your follow-up.
Oh, apologies. Thanks, Nina. And the Prime Minister also reference to the situation in Don Valley North regarding issues involving the Liberal Party and foreign interference. In your view, being able to look at the NSICOP report, was that the lone instance of potential foreign interference highlighted with the Liberals, or did you see issues that raise your concern beyond the Don Valley North situation?
I think in the public discourse, there's additional matters that were raised, and there are additional matters that need to be addressed. And frankly, the Prime Minister has known about information and not taken sufficient action, but at least he tried to know, not taking sufficient action. And we got a Conservative leader who doesn't even want to know. I believe what an appropriate steps for a leader is to know exactly what's going on and take every step possible to protect our country.
We will now go to Palak with Parliament Today. Please go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Singh. Thanks for taking our questions. You're saying that there was nothing requiring you to take action, but that there was outstanding information around the Conservatives. But the Prime Minister was clear that members of the Liberals, Conservative, and I believe he said other parties were also compromised. So can you just square those comments with what you're saying today? And is the implication that the Prime Minister was lying, or was he referencing other parties, be it the Bloc, the Green?
Yeah, I can be very clear about the NDP that the information I received required no additional steps for me regarding the subject matter, which is current MPs, former MPs, or candidates. There's no information that required me to take any action, and there's nothing that was raising any concerns about my party specifically when it comes to the question of knowingly or unwittingly working for a foreign government. That question of knowingly or unwittingly, and the parliamentarians associated with that is something that impacts other parties, and it was raised in the public report or the public portion of the report that is available. That is outstanding, absolutely. The commissioner raising that the concern that there is attempts of foreign interference that impact all parties is valid. There's many attempts of foreign interference impacting all parties. We see that in many different ways.
But he can't tell us
any. Spread by foreign governments trying to attack members of parliament. There's many areas where the commissioner is absolutely right, where there is attempts of foreign interference. When we're talking about the specific allegation in the report that talks about parliamentarians who are either knowingly or unknowingly or wittingly or unwittingly engaged in behavior and actions that undermine our country, that is of the utmost seriousness, and that's the area where I have no concerns for my party, but I have concerns for other parties, and that's where I'm saying that there needs to be additional steps taken.
And just as a follow-up, in relation to the CBSA announcement here, can you just specify what is your commitment? Is it to restore that 1,100, the same workers in the same positions? Because I did hear a figure from Mr. Weber around I think you said 2,000 workers needed to even just counter attrition. So if maybe both of you want to weigh in on that.
Sure, sure. My commitment is to first and foremost is to remedy that mistake that was, or that decision that was made, that cut of 1,100 workers. We have to immediately restore those 1,100 workers and look at all possible means to do that. Rehiring workers, looking at ways to improve recruitment, looking at ways to keep workers on for longer. We need to find ways that respect the worker, working with unions, the union to come up with a solution. But we need to make sure we immediately get back the cut of 1,100 workers. That has to happen immediately. And then we've also committed to increasing beyond that, because as Mr. Weber pointed out, that cut, of course, it's important to quickly remedy that cut. That still wouldn't get us to where we need to go. We need additional workers beyond that. So our commitment is to start with fixing that decision of the cut of the Conservatives that the Liberals have maintained, immediately fix that, and then continue to increase staffing levels. And I invite Mr. Weber to add any more details if you'd like.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, the initial cuts happened under the Deficit Reduction Action Plan under Mr. Harper. I believe that's what the intention is to be replaced. When I say 2,000, really that's the number that we estimate is needed just to meet operational requirements at the CBSA. We are short far more than the original 1,100 that were cut. On top of the staffing, what we need to see as well is kind of walking away from that over-reliance on new technologies that are meant to replace officers, because they are simply not doing that. Technology's focus is never on security, it's always about facilitation. So if we want to stop things coming into the country that we don't want in the country, such as illegal firearms, we really need the people in place. So the announcement today is very positive.
Alors, nous avons une dernière question. We have one last question. Mélanie Marquis avec la presse, c'est à vous.
Bonjour, Monsieur Singh. La question
Bonjour, madame.
a été posée plusieurs fois mardi dernier, mais elle est demeurée sans réponse. Pouvez-vous dire si la GRC vous a avisé?
Quelques finalement,
see if they do it in English.
Plusieurs Canadiens.
No, they don't. That's it. Man, this is tough to watch. This is tough to watch. Sorry, folks. Jagmeet's a freaking moron, though. Speaking of tough to watch, we have the committee hearing that happened this morning. At least part of it. This is going to be pretty good here. It's probably going to be likely just as annoying. Oh, there was a super chat. I don't see it though. Where'd the super chat go? It's gone. YouTube got rid of it. All right. Oh, there it is. Moody with the 2 saying would be easy ammo for the libs to release the names. I mean, yeah, like that's a very good point. You would have a lot less corruption if they just release the names. It doesn't make any sense at all. It makes no sense that they are not releasing the names. All right. Here we go.
With us. We're going to start with Mr. Genuis for 6 minutes, please. Go ahead, sir.
Mr. Brock first and then to me.
Mr. Brock. You're on mute, Mr. Brock.
Well, here we go again. Another day, another NDP Liberal financial scandal, this time a contracting fried supply chain. What is the total value of misappropriated funds under the Indigenous procurement system?
Thanks, Robert, for the 5. We'll see you in the next one, buddy.
I do not have that information, and you would have to actually refer to Indigenous Services Canada. We are working on the 5% related to PSPC's targets.
The Assembly of First Nations testified that there are a number of shell companies securing government contracts in the Indigenous procurement program. How many shell companies has the government detected and identified?
Again, I think you would have to direct that question to Indigenous Services Canada, who are responsible for the IBD.
To your knowledge, is ISC actually looking into the number of shell companies?
I am not familiar with their activities, sorry.
To your knowledge, has ISC or anyone at PSPC made any referrals to the RCMP?
I am not aware.
How many cases has PSPC identified in which a company hires an Indigenous person simply to gain access to federal contracts through the Indigenous procurement program?
Again, that is a program that is held by the Indigenous Services Canada, and they would be the ones identifying, not PSPC.
Chair, I'm ceding the rest of my time to Mr. Genuis.
Thank you, Chair. The AFN has said, as my colleague mentioned, that most of the companies receiving Indigenous set-asides are actually shell companies. That's according to the AFN. Do you agree with their findings?
I would not be able to provide that information, or will I?
Yeah, but you're sorry to jump in. You're the procurement department, though. You're responsible for overseeing government procurement. This is a very serious allegation from one of the leading Indigenous organizations in the country. Do you have an opinion on it at all?
I do not have an opinion, and I would refer you to request that question to the Indigenous Services Canada.
Okay, that's very striking. Most of the companies are shell companies, according to this program, and you're responsible for procurement, and you don't have an opinion either way. The government uses its own deeply flawed Indigenous business list rather than relying on criteria and lists developed by Indigenous organizations. Why is that?
That is the rules that we are bound by, and those rules are set by Indigenous Services Canada as well as the Treasury Board Secretariat of Canada.
But why is it that that you develop your own list instead of working with Indigenous organizations and relying on lists that they develop? Is there a policy rationale that you're aware of?
I am not aware of that. That is a responsibility of the Indigenous Services Canada, and we are bound by those rules, and we are working on how we can actually increase Indigenous.
Can I just clarify then? They make all the rules and you make none of the rules with respect to how you define what is an Indigenous company or what is or is not a shell company? Do you have you don't have any role whatsoever, you're saying?
No, we do not. That is the Indigenous Services Canada's responsibility to develop those definitions.
How come you're responsible for procurement for everything except Indigenous procurement then?
We are responsible for procuring and trying to increase the Indigenous participation in procurement, but the rules related to the IBD are not ours, and the rules to the PSIB is not ours.
Fraud prevention in a general sense, is fraud prevention part of your role?
Not in the Indigenous Services Canada IBD. They are the ones that are doing the audits and the validation of those companies.
It's bizarre to me then that you are the procurement department. Presumably you're supposed to have some expertise on this area, and yet you're taking none of the responsibility in the particular case of Indigenous procurement. I want to ask as well, the way to prevent shell companies from giving all of the work to non-Indigenous companies is to have subcontracting requirements, and that's why the rules require that a certain proportion of subcontracts under the Indigenous set-aside go to Indigenous companies. Are these subcontracting rules enforced?
So there are various ways for us to actually increase Indigenous participation in our contracts. One of them is for the prime contractor.
Thanks for stopping in, personalized.
You answer the specific question. The 1/3 subcontract rule, is it enforced?
But in what context do you want that? Like if there is an Indigenous requirement.
Ma'am, it's very simple. When an Indigenous company receives a contract under a set-aside, they are required to have 1/3 of their subcontracts be Indigenous companies. It appears that there is no tracking of this. Very simple question. Is this 1/3 subcontract rule enforced? Yes or no?
That would be enforced by Indigenous Services Canada.
Is it being enforced right now? Or you don't know?
They would be the ones that would be able to answer that question.
Ma'am, it either is being enforced, it isn't being enforced, or you don't know if it's being enforced. That's my question. Which is
you would have to refer to Indigenous Services Canada.
Oh my God, answer the freaking question, dude.
Mr. Chair, I believe that's my time, but can you put the question to the witness and insist that she provides a response? If she doesn't know, she doesn't know, but she should tell us she doesn't know. Is the requirement being enforced? I think I've asked the question 4 or 5 times now, and the witness has an obligation to answer it.
Ms. Pickett?
It would be the responsibility of Indigenous Services Canada to actually enforce that, and they're doing the audits and validation of this happening. And that's what I know. I don't know whether or not they are doing it, but I would say that that's their responsibility, and therefore they're doing it.
Maybe I can ask.
Okay, so she doesn't know if it's being enforced.
Yeah. Does PSPC, maybe I can just ask for Mr. Genuis, does PSPC not have an oversight responsibility for that, considering it's purchasing?
Not in
And I'm
the
just trying to
Indigenous,
continue maybe-
not in the Indigenous services, for the IBD list, we're not the ones responsible for validating or auditing that list.
The list or for purchases?
For the directory. So we're
Yes, sir,
responsible for procuring. We're not responsible for the directory, but we need to actually validate the
I
through the
apologize.
directory.
I just want to make sure we were getting the right question to you. I think we'll move on to Ms. Atwin now.
Yeah, sorry, Chair. Just a point of order, though.
Sorry, Ms.
someone
Atwin.
getting
Just 1 second. Did that not answer the question as put forward, Mr. Genuis?
She didn't answer the question.
I understand that they don't maintain the list, but it's a question of whether a rule around subcontracting is enforced. That is a responsibility that should follow the procurement department, and the witness is saying she doesn't know, which is.
So I guess the question is the rules being enforced around subcontracting, not the list, but the actual contracting rules being followed for subcontracting?
So Indigenous Services Canada are responsible for the PSIB. They are responsible for the definition. So the companies that they have in their directory would actually follow that. The subcontractor or the 33% is still under their purview to investigate.
They are following the rules or not, is Indigenous Services and PSPC would not be aware.
Correct.
Thanks, Mrs. Atwin. Sorry for the delay there. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure that was a point of order on the last one, but I'll move on. I also just want to clarify that Indigenous Services Canada does not verify any subcontracting. It's up to the contracting departments.
Dude, you've got Indigenous communities that have brown drinking water. I've featured this on my main channel in the past, where I've shown water in the bathtub, water in the sink, and it's freaking brown. This is something that Justin Trudeau promised 9 years ago to fix. Right? They don't do what they've said they're going to do for Indigenous communities. It's atrocious. And that's just the water. That's not even the infrastructure. That's not even the cost of living. That's not even other things, right? The roads. It's gross. It's absolutely gross.
Ms. Paquette, I'd love to ask you actually.
I don't know how any Indigenous person or community could support the Liberals or the NDP.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Procurement Assistance Canada has the mandate to work with businesses to help them better understand how to navigate federal procurement. We also have an increased focus on working through with Indigenous businesses to enhance and to drive forward with
everyone in Canada does deserve clean drinking water.
We have
above and beyond above and beyond not only failing to provide clean drinking water. You have Liberal government lawyers that have deemed it not the government's responsibility to provide clean drinking water to everyone in Canada. Isn't that just messed up? Imagine the government saying, yeah, you know what? You live in Montreal. It's not our problem. It's not our responsibility to provide you with clean drinking water. Good luck. You live in Toronto? Nah, good luck. You live in Kelowna, in Kamloops, on Vancouver Island? Yeah, good luck. Right? It's freaking crazy. Like an actual ruling by the Liberal lawyers. The government lawyers said we don't owe people clean drinking water. In response to a court case that was specifically around Indigenous communities and not receiving drinking water, right? I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense.
Regional offices across the country that are able to work directly on the ground with businesses and with partners to help us get the message out and to identify businesses that need assistance, and through various webinars, through various events, we try to provide them with contacts and information that they need to be able to navigate and to potentially have success in federal procurement.
Great. And through that work, can you speak to any of the specific barriers to participation in federal procurement?
Yeah, there are certainly the Government of Canada, thank you, Mr. Chair, the Government of Canada certainly is working to ensure that federal procurement continues to remain fair, open, and transparent. And we do listen to the business community in terms of some of the challenges that they face. So we certainly are mindful of ways that we can simplify procurement. And that is something that we're certainly aware of. And in that context, we have
welcome to the memberships community, Shia, CIA, Medor,
one of the
Shia Medor.
As well that we've been
Thank you, I
focusing
appreciate
on
that.
in terms of ensuring that there's availability of information that businesses need is that we've recently moved to launch Canada Buys, which is our platform that enables us to provide procurement opportunities. So we know availability of information, critically important, but through Canada Buys, we're able to have a portal that is able to meet the needs of business. We know that just generally business, particularly small business, certainly just in general, will sometimes have challenges with financing and others, but we do know that if we put the information related to federal procurement and how it works, we can help provide them with opportunities to be ultimately successful. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Ms. Paquette, in May of 2022, Indigenous Services Canada introduced a requirement for businesses to certify that they qualify as Indigenous businesses in order to register on the Indigenous Businesses Directory. Was PSPC consulted on this? And can you explain these requirements?
I do not know if we were consulted. We may have been, but I do not have that answer, sorry.
Okay. And do you know roughly how many businesses there are on the Indigenous Business Directory compared to how many total Indigenous businesses there are in Canada?
I do not know. Do you know?
Yeah, my understanding is that there's about 2,900 businesses on the IBD. Based on recent research, there are upwards of 60,000 Indigenous businesses across the country, but that's sort of the information that we have to work with at this moment.
Do you think that massive discrepancy prohibits departments from reaching that 5% target?
That's why we're trying to engage the Indigenous communities to try to actually get them to register on the Indigenous in the IBD, as well as register into Canada Buys so that they can actually increase their participation in our procurement activities.
Great. And as the administrator of the Indigenous Business Directive, what do you feel Indigenous Services Canada has to do in order to increase the registration of businesses and help all departments reach that 5% target?
They have started some engagement with various Indigenous communities to determine how they can increase the number of suppliers on there, or how they can validate it differently, or how it could be managed differently. But they are the ones managing that, and we're not necessarily involved in those discussions.
It must be nice, to be a federal MP. You get paid for literally doing nothing.
I would also like to note as well that through Procurement Assistance Canada, we do work or run quite a number of events across the country to raise awareness of the various lists that are available that Indigenous businesses should be mindful of. We also focus on encouraging registration of Indigenous businesses on Canada Buys to enable them to ultimately be able to do business with the Government of Canada. We do different kinds of events, including our we call them small business information expos. That's where we do bring the broader federal family together in one location, and we invite different businesses. We focus on the Indigenous business community on occasion, and it gives them an opportunity to find out which programs are available. We do often invite our counterparts from Indigenous Services Canada, so they're able to directly speak with Indigenous businesses and to explain what is needed. We also do buyers expos where we provide opportunities for businesses to talk to buyers and to answer some of the questions. So we're doing a pretty significant outreach, and when there are opportunities for an Indigenous business to get to the point perhaps where they're able to enter into a contract, we do want to make sure that they're made aware of the importance of being as part of the IBD in order to ensure that the Government of Canada is moving toward the 5% target. Thank you.
Excellent. And just to be clear, does PSPC play any role in the initial verification of a business's ability to meet the eligibility requirements to be listed on the Indigenous Business Directory and business's ongoing eligibility?
No, we do not.
Thank you very much. And just with my remaining time, I encourage everyone, all committee members and members of Parliament, to do a search through the Library of Parliament to find out those Indigenous businesses in your riding and how we can support them. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thanks, Mrs. Atwin. We'll go to Mrs. Vignola, please, for 6 minutes.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, Ms. Paquette. Thank you for being with us today. My first question is as follows. We've been talking about
I think we can skip a little ahead, eh?
the patient took 2 days. I understand.
We're going to mute that.
Or as a subcontract.
Procurement, separate from the role of Indigenous Services Canada, has pointed is
Canada and
be addressed. I want to get back to the issue of
the IBD, possibly with
all due respect. I believe that PSPC does have a responsibility to ensure that taxpayers' money is being spent effectively and efficiently. And if I was seeing reports about this kind of abuse within a program, I would certainly be sounding the alarm and trying to figure out how this could be addressed. I want to get back to the issue of subcontracting. Recently, the Procurement Ombudsman launched a broad review of government procurement, specifically on the practice of bait and switch. Now, this follows on the heels of revelations that your department has allowed companies to engage in the bait and switch with the resources working on their contracts with no repercussions. We talked a little bit about subcontractors earlier in response to some of my colleagues' questions. If you are not monitoring the subcontractors, how can we trust that this program, which is supposed to award contracts to Indigenous businesses, is actually working the way it's meant to?
So in our procurements, when we have a prime contractor, we are incorporating certain measures, or the prime contractor is who we have a contract with, and they have subcontractors, and they are obligated to incorporate the similar type of measures for the subcontractor as they do in their prime contract with the Government of Canada. But we do not manage subcontractors at PSPC.
Thank you very much.
And I believe that's a problem.
Thanks very much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Baines. We'll go over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for to our department officials for joining us today. I
don't know how much more I can listen to the Liberals here, man. We might be cutting this one short here sometime soon. Yeah, it looks like the main Conservatives got their piece in, and then it's done. You know what, folks? Let's all get back to living our days, huh? Let's all get back to enjoying the rest of our days, and maybe put an end to this nonsense for today. I want to appreciate everyone on short notice on an impromptu live stream on this channel, which very rarely happens. It was mostly front loaded for the stuff that happened at the start of the live stream to pay attention to what was going on. Nonetheless, thank you everybody for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your day. Make sure that you Make sure that you go over to Mr. Sunshine, the main channel, and you go check out that latest video. If you haven't seen it, posted a couple hours ago. I likely will have, what time is it? I likely will have another video coming out later this afternoon. So go enjoy the rest of your day. Peace and love, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you guys on another stream on this channel